should change your strings every 3 months or when they just start to feel like the tone isn't there anymore, because they can get dirty, your sound won't be as good, and they become a lot more frail. You don't want a string snapping. You can change your strings by hand, but it makes it a lot easier if you have cutters and a string winder. Now I'm going to start by loosening the low E string. While you're loosening it, it helps a bit if you start to pick up the string. When it starts to get toward the end, you'll be able to pull it off a bit. Now, I'm going to take off the low A string. When you start to get toward the end of the string, you can begin to pull it around while continuing to turn the peg toward you. Pull it right out. Now, I'm going to loosen the D string. Again, I'm turning the peg toward me and beginning to pull up on the string slightly as it gets looser. Now I'm loosening the high E string. It's probably for the best that you go back and forth between the high and the low strings in order to maintain the same tension in your neck, or else you'll have to go through the whole guitar setup once again. This has an effect on the intonation. When you finger the fingerboard, it can impact how high or low the sound is meant to be. You'll probably notice that when you're taking off the higher strings, it might take a little bit longer than the lower strings. And typically, you're probably doing a few more winds when you're tightening them. Now, I'm taking off the B string, which is the second highest string on the guitar. As it begins to loosen up, I put my fingers underneath the string near the headstock in order to help pull it through, but not too much as to damage the guitar. And there it is. Now, I'm taking out the G string. For the upper 3 strings on the guitar, you're going to want to wind the tuning pegs away from you. Again, when you're taking off and putting on the higher strings, it might take a little bit longer than the lower strings. Okay, now the guitar is ready to be cleaned off. After you've taken off your strings, it's always a good idea to clean off your guitar, especially the fingerboard. You can use any guitar polish and cleaner and typically find them at your favorite music store. To make sure you get a deep clean, it's a good idea to individually go in between each fret to remove any grime or oils that might have come off your fingers. And while you're there, make sure you clean off the headstock and the hardware on it too. Once you've removed the strings from the tuning pegs, you can take these on the lower part of the guitar and pull them out in order to remove the rest of the string. Some people use pliers or a special tool because they might not come out easily. In your pack of strings, you'll notice that they're labeled 1 through 6, 1 being the thinnest and 6 being the thickest. Let's start off with number 6. That's going to be your low E string. When putting the string on the guitar, first take off the little sticker label, and the end with the string ball will go right inside this hole. Once that's in there, take one of these, line up the indented side with the string, and place them in together so that it fits nice and snug. That way, it won't get out once you tighten the string. Do this for the rest of the strings. String number 5, typically your low A string. Place it in, push down, and don't be afraid of it either. Because once you're tuning the guitar, you may have to push these down further again as the string tightens. String number 4, your D string. Line it up with the string. There you go. String number 3, your G string. Place that right in there. String number 2, your B string. Here's the last one, your high E string. Take off the label, place it in here, and place this peg lined up with the string right in. Once your strings are in, you can begin bringing them up to the tuning pegs on the headstock of the guitar. Once your string is in the bridge, you want to bring it up to the tuning peg and place it through the hole in the middle of it. Once that's there, make a slight bend at the end and begin winding it away from you in order to tighten the string. While doing this, in order to hold it in place, place your fingers around it in the spot near the tuning peg. You may notice too that as you're winding, the string may start to come up from the bridge, from underneath the peg. And if it does this, just go ahead and push it in slightly. Continue to wind and make sure that as you're tuning it away from you, you're seeing the string in the middle of the headstock, not outside of it. Holding on to the string while you're tuning it makes sure that the string stretches properly and gives it less of a chance of breaking later on. As it's getting close to being where it needs to be, you'll feel it tighten. And as it tightens, make sure that the string is lined up in the indent between the headstock and the fingerboard. And if applicable, you'll also see a slight indent for the string near the bridge. It'll be very small, but it's there. The easiest way to make sure you're tuning it in the right direction is by plucking the string, tuning the tuning peg away, and if the sound is getting higher, then you're doing it the right way. Once you have the low E string on, go ahead and grab the high E string. It's for the best that you go back and forth between high and low strings in order to maintain the tension of the neck. So you'll take the string, pull it up through the tuning peg, and for this, you'll actually begin to wind it toward you in order to tighten the string. Once it's in, and you have a slight bend in the string at the end, keep tuning it toward you, winding the peg. Again, checking to make sure it lines up with the indentation on the bridge. And once the string feels like it's pretty solid in place, grab it near the headstock or toward the middle and continue to wind it. That way, this allows your string to stretch and gives it less of a chance of breaking. And it's okay to take your time. Once both your high and low E strings are in place, you'll take the second lowest string, the A string, bring it up, and thread it through the tuning peg. Of course. Just like the low E string, you're going to want to make sure that while tightening the string, it goes toward the middle of the headstock. So pull that through and begin to turn the peg away from you. And just like that, you've strung your guitar. Once your strings are on the guitar, you'll take a pair of clippers and near the end, but not quite, give them a snip. You don't want to cut it right to the end in case you need to tune your guitar and risk it falling out of place.